Hello, everyone. The show might be called, it has nothing to do with age or gender, but I'm thinking of changing it to The Happy Show. And that's because of Tony. Tony comes over this morning and we do this run and he says, I'm so happy. I'm always happy, is what he says. So he has a new computer that's faster than mine. He loves that. So I think that's part of his happiness, plus our guest today, our guest and our friend, Chris Turney is here. So it's a combination of being happy, just happy.
Just feeling good and being happy.
There's more to the story about being happy, isn't there?
Always.
Always. Do you want to?
No.
No? Anyway, as you know, both Tony and Chris are in the book, and one of the things I asked Chris about was about running Western states and some of the secrets about that, and so I forget what, I'd have to look up what page, but I wrote down verbatim what Chris told me. Anyway, this is Chris Turney. We're happy to have you finally on the show. And we know about your mental toughness, but we're going to share that with
the world.
Everyone in the world. The Happy Show. But anyway, there's a quote here by Freya Stark. And I want you to listen to the quote and see how it applies to you.
Okay.
Tony likes the quote. There can be no happiness if things we believe in are different from the things we do.
Oh, that's true. I always try to keep a positive attitude, and I am generally a happy person no matter what.
Are you related?
You know?
Are you related
Yeah, I am.
to Tony?
Yes, I think so. I think we're twins.
But you have a twin.
I do.
So this is triplets?
Yes.
He's one of the triplets?
Yes. I think I have the ability to let things that bother me or bug me roll off my back or whatever, especially when I go running, because I can analyze things or process them when I'm running, and then after I'm done, I don't think about it anymore. And then I go on, and one of the biggest joys, I enjoy running with you and Tony and all my friends, and it's socializing.
But one of the keys really is dealing with our issues.
Exactly.
And running is the way to do that.
Exactly.
Except for Tony, because he has no issues. He's always happy, and he just runs and runs and runs. What?
Some days.
Oh, there's another side of you?
Yeah.
What's the other
not
side?
every day's perfect.
Perfect.
Well, it's always nice to one-up your friends. That makes you happy.
You're describing Tony, but you knew.
Well,
I knew that.
Chris knows that because he used to be that way.
Oh, I'm still the alpha schnauzer.
The alpha schnauzer.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so let's find out a little bit about the alpha schnauzer. And was that Tom Christoph that named you that?
Yes.
Do you remember the year?
Oh, I know that we did the Catalina Marathon, and a bunch of us went down there.
Was there too.
Tony probably remembers the year. We all stayed in this shack. The outside walls were paper thin. In fact, you could see through the slats in the boards, and the next house. There were partitions between the bedrooms, and
Go ahead. You're describing it very well.
Anyway, you'd start to fall asleep, and then you'd hear somebody talking or laughing, and then everyone in the whole place would start laughing.
And everybody knows Tony's laugh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Becky's mom yelled at me.
Oh, yeah.
Becky's mom was there too?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was she yelling at you about?
To quit laughing.
To quit laughing.
Yeah, and then anyway, we all got on the boat to go to the starting line and did the race. And I think I don't know how long I had to wait for everyone to finish, but
He was ahead of us.
yes, I just
were-
wanted to let you know that
You were ahead?
I
He was
ahead.
actually quite thrilled that day because you actually ran very well the first
10 miles.
10 miles.
First 10 miles.
Yeah.
But that was uphill.
Yes, and then we got on the ridge and ran towards the town, and I could see Becky's mom in the bus taking pictures as she was going back and forth, and that was pretty neat.
So do you remember your time?
No, not really.
Generally, you know your time about these various events.
Exactly.
So just explain because you don't remember this one.
I was just running for fun, and I
You
hadn't
were
been training
you
very
on-
much.
Oh, well, that's the same. We know that story. We've heard
Yeah.
that
Oh,
before.
well, it was a given he was going to beat us. That was no contest.
But there were some good runners,
He was-
aside from you and Tom.
I think you were trying to see if you could still keep up with the,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you did
Up with
for a
who?
while.
Who-
Yeah.
who-
Because a lot of times when you go into a race where you're undertrained, you really want to find out where you are, and as the season begins, and because once you establish your baseline, then you can set your training up appropriately. Because one of the things my coach used to always stress,
Which coach is this?
high school, college,
Okay.
and then even after, is it takes 2 to 3 months to establish an endurance base, another 2 months to establish your strength, and then the last month to develop your speed. And that's when you really, if you have a race, for example, if you wanted to run Boston, you would, Boston is usually in April, I think, or
Right around
March.
it, right around it,
Yeah. So anyway, so you start thinking about your training
6
in
months
December.
6 months before.
Yeah, 5 or 6 months.
Yeah.
And and a lot of times when you've been running as long as I have, you try to take shortcuts and by racing yourself into shape and picking fun races like Catalina, and you're running with your friends, and so you push yourself a little bit harder than you're really ready to, and hurts a little more, but
Running into shape.
running in shape, racing into
Racing
shape.
into shape.
Is that what you're doing?
Well, since we race every month, we're always racing into shape or into destruction. One or the other. One or the other, yeah.
All right. So your best marathon time is
2:26.
2:26. So how close to that time were you at Catalina?
I think I was probably 14 minutes off of it. Something like that.
Really? That's all?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I could have been 20 minutes off of it. I don't really remember it.
But that's a rough
So
marathon, at least.
yeah,
The first part.
Well, there's a 5-mile section when you run by the horse camp. It's pretty much uphill. Wrigley's Ranch.
I don't know. I remember it seemed like the first 13 miles was uphill.
Well, there's a lot of it that's
Yeah.
rolling, and then then you hit that uphill.
Was
part.
he that much in front of you?
Well, I don't want his time's a little, because the winning time is just over 3 hours.
Yeah. So mine was probably a half hour behind it, for sure.
So,
Yeah, you're right.
yes. So he was only a half hour ahead of
So
us.
That's
so
all?
I
Yeah.
guess I would have been an hour behind my best marathon.
An hour behind your best marathon.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
'Cause it is a very hilly
Catalina's
course, very
tough.
tough course.
It is tough, yeah. It's tough, yeah. That had to be in the late 90s, I think.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yes.
somewhere around
somewhere
yeah.
around there, yeah, mid to late.
Yeah.
In my 40s, so I had
It was
to be
the
in
year
the 90s,
the
late
year
90s.
before you went to Arizona.
Okay, so 95, 96, somewhere
Okay.
around there.
Okay, so that was ways ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you ran the 2:26. That's close to Olympic trials.
Yes, in order to qualify for Olympic trials, you had to run under 2:20. And
So you're like
two-
6
yeah,
minutes off?
6 minutes off, yeah. And so under that's about a 5:20 per mile pace, running under 2:20. And my average was 5:33. So 13 seconds a mile, you don't think it's that big of a difference, but the energy level that you have to expend per mile, especially as the distance continues, it's significant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what year was that?
That was, let's see, 1982, because I ran my first marathon in 81.
So were you in college then, or
No, I'd finished running college.
just out of
Yeah.
college?
So my first marathon was Avenue of the Giants, and I ran 2:28. And then the second one was San Francisco Marathon. I ran 2:27. So I was steadily improving, almost by a minute each time.
So when did you stop running competing marathons?
When I started getting involved in riding ties and ultras,
Okay.
didn't hurt as much. Because
What didn't hurt as much?
running 50 Ks and 50 miles
Didn't
and
hurt as much?
didn't hurt as much. And doing riding ties, because I could run a 50K at my training pace and maintain that, and because when I would run the marathon, I would try to run at 5:20 pace.
For 26 miles.
Yes.
It's a lot harder on you.
So what do you think's wrong with our training? Or my training?
Other than the fact we're slow.
Yeah.
You don't find the 50Ks easier than
That It's not getting easier. Well, I guess shorter seems easier.
Well, of course it is. Being consistent in your training makes all the difference in the world. When I was running a lot, I was running 2, maybe 3 times a day. I was coaching. I wasn't running, for college anymore. So, I'd run in the morning, probably 10 miles, and then when I was coaching, I'd run with my athletes and do the repeats with them, the mile repeats halves and 2-mile repeats. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would go to my running club and run their workout, and I would always select, I would train my athletes. I was coaching a women's team at Del Campo High School, and they would run mile repeats on Monday and long on Tuesday, whereas I would run long on Monday and do mile repeats on Tuesday. We do hill work on Wednesday and speed work on Thursday.
Okay.
So,
Now, Tony was reading an article by Megan. And Megan talks about doing fast and then a week of slower.
Well, I didn't get that from her. That was just
Is that somebody else?
That was just a article on a training program for a 50K, and basically he's basically saying you do a hard week and then an easy week.
Mm-hmm.
And
It didn't sound like Chris was doing that though. Or were you?
No, every week was, about the same.
Well, this was
when I was
for
running
an average runner,
Oh, okay.
not the elite.
Sorry.
Yeah, true. Probably some of my best training that I ever did was when I went out for long runs and I just ran the way I felt. If I if I was tired, I ran tired, and my body just didn't want to go, but I struggled through it. The hardest thing was trying to get out the door because I knew I was tired.
You know ahead of time.
I knew ahead of time.
Yeah.
And usually when you're tired, you know within the first quarter mile, it's going to be a rough day. And
Well, sometimes it changes though.
it does, but not until you have like 3 miles to go. Then all of a sudden you loosen up enough that you start feeling better.
Okay, so you've probably you've run what, anywhere from 5Ks to the 100 miles.
Yeah, my distance in college was a 10K, and then
10K.
10K, yeah, and then
So tell us where that was.
at Sacramento State,
Sacramento State, and who was your competition back then?
Humboldt. We were
Humboldt.
Division II, yes,
Okay.
and Humboldt had 2 fantastic runners, Danny Grimes and Mark Conover. Mark Conover went on to win the Olympic trials going
Okay.
to Korea, and phenomenal runners. On our team, my junior year, we had Jaime White, Mike Van Horn, Gary Sutherland, Jim Howard, Dennis Mindy, all really great runners.
That was your junior year?
That was my junior year at
Sac State.
Sac State.
Sac State, okay.
You know, and then
Was 10K the longest distance, or
for college.
for college? That's
College,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
You know, and
What's the time, like a good time for a 10K time? What would be?
well, to qualify for our conference in track, you had to run 31:48 in order to qualify to run at the conference.
So that would be what? What would that be per
Um,
mile?
31 minutes 48 seconds. Probably about 5:10 pace.
That's your pace, Tony. 5:10.
What, yeah, if I fall off a cliff.
Yeah.
Going down.
And the way our conference worked, if not enough people qualified for the event, then they would make a list of, people, and
Okay.
our conference. Fortunately for me, we didn't have enough people who qualified at that time, and so my junior year, I did finish 5th, so I did, I guess, letter.
Okay.
So that was
Okay.
good.
Okay. Are you wearing it?
No,
You're not wearing your letter? Okay.
You still have it.
no, I never got it.
Never got
I
it?
didn't pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Didn't pick
No,
it up.
but I am in the official,
The official letter.
yeah,
Okay, that's good.
in the conference book.
In the conference book?
Yes.
Okay, the Sac State conference book. Did you bring that?
No.
Well, we can verify that at some other
Some-
some other occasion. Okay, so let's go back to when you started running.
Oh,
How far back do we
we have to go back to like 4 years old.
4 years
Yeah,
old.
because my twin brother and I used to pile our trucks and toys and to the back fence, and we would climb over the fence and be out. One time, I know this isn't good to say, and probably Child Protective Services wouldn't like it too much, but
Too late.
it is. We were out in front, and my parents, because Curtis and I look so much alike, and we were both super skinny and super small.
That was then.
That was then. Yeah, now I'm super fat. My mom and dad always like to keep an eye on us, and my dad asked, well, where are the twins? And my mom said, oh, they're around here somewhere. Oh, there's Chris. Oh, a couple minutes later, there's Curtis. Well, like 10 minutes after that, they got a phone call. Are you missing a son? Curtis had gone down to the Rayleighs, and he was running in and out of the doors a half mile away. Apparently, they saw me twice.
They saw you twice.
Yeah.
So how was that your running experience begin? It looked like it was Curtis's.
Well, it was, but we were always running and playing, and since we were military brats, we traveled to Italy and Germany, and we would, you know, we were always going all over town with our parents and walking a lot. When I was old enough to roller skate, I'd take the dog for a leash, you know, with her pulling me with the skates, and
Is that cross training?
yeah, that's cross
cross
training. Yeah, the hardest thing was trying to get her to stop because I only weighed 40 pounds in the 5th grade.
That's hard to believe.
So, yeah.
Were you a midget?
No, I was extremely light. Yeah, I guess I was small.
And that's
I
really
was even small in high school and college.
that was small.
Yeah.
Small.
So,
Okay.
so when did you start running? I mean, did you start competing? I mean, you
9th grade.
playing 9th grade. Okay.
Well, actually, it would be my sophomore year of high school.
High
You know, I
school.
ran the 9th grade track, and it was more important to me
Was that here in the United States?
in Rancho Cordova.
How did you decide to go into track? What made you?
My good friend Gary Sutherland, who, you know, when I went to school, there were a bunch of twins at my school, and Gary Sutherland and Mike Sutherland, they were pretty good athletes and runners, and we would always, you know, play football in the yard and or whatever, you know, teenagers do at that time. And well, they, you know, went out for the track team, and you know, so Curtis and I went out for the track team, you know, but I didn't care about beating anybody but my brother. You know, and in 9th grade we were only 2 seconds apart, but I'm very proud that I was 2 seconds faster.
That's close.
Yeah.
That's close.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
What was the distance for
2 miles.
2 miles?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember your time?
I think it was 11:14 or 11:13.
You're fast then.
So,
That fast?
but it wasn't that fast enough because there were a lot of my high school had a lot of good distance runners. You know, my junior year, we won the state championship.
Uh-huh.
I think we set the 2-mile relay record, the distant medley state distant medley record, and we're pretty close to in the sprint medley and 4-mile as well.
So it was a 4-mile medley
Mm-hmm.
in high school?
Yeah, 4-mile relay. Yeah.
4 people?
Uh-huh.
So each person run a mile?
Yeah.
Right?
I wasn't part of that team, but you know, one person was capable of running 4:13. You know, and the slowest one I think was, you know, 4:22.
Jeez.
It's
Yeah,
fast.
so-
it's fast.
So if you made the team, you know, in cross country, you know, you were running pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was that way in junior college and then also at Sacramento State.
Okay, so you started the Tony S. basically the 9th grade.
Basically.
But what? Just because the Sutherlands were doing this, you were doing
Yeah,
it?
you know, and you know,
Or
whenever.
did your brother, did Curtis, did he initiate this?
No,
or It was you?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was, you know, more fun to do something like that than to go home and do your homework right away. You know, and you know, because even in high school we were running 70 miles a week.
70?
Yeah,
Yes.
he rubbed that in today.
I did.
When I told him, he says, I did that in high school.
You know, yeah. So,
Sour grapes.
you know, so
He was so happy he wrote about this on Facebook that he did 70 miles this past week. He'd been so happy. And then you
Just
had
crushed
to
me.
just rub that in.
I didn't want me to. Oh yeah, I did.
You did.
I wanted to one up you.
Yeah, you did.
70?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
You know.
Oh, come on,
Yeah.
come on. How would you,
So,
you go to school,
well,
It gets dark.
in the morning,
you'd run in the morning?
run in the morning, about 5 miles,
Okay,
and
well,
then in the afternoon, you know, all you have to do is average 10 miles
A
a
day, yeah.
day.
that's all.
Yeah.
That's all you had to do, is average 10 miles a day.
I know. What can I say?
Yeah. And and the same formula that we used in high school is basically the same formula that my coaches used at junior college and
Which is what?
college. Um, Mile repeats on Monday, long run on Tuesday, hill work on Wednesday, speed on Thursday, rest and run short on Friday and race on Saturday. Long run on Sunday.
Well, we're still doing that.
Yeah.
Are we do well? That's all we're doing, though.
Yes.
We're not doing the other stuff, but are we? Not exactly.
We play.
Yeah.
But we did
Exactly.
main bar.
We did do main.
We did main bar today.
Yeah. Which is now easy for you.
Yeah, right. Okay, so so from high school, so you're fast already. You started, in other words, when you said ninth grade, first time, you're fast. You're doing 5-minute.
No, I wasn't running 5 minutes. Um, see, for a high school runner, the big thing is to break 10 minutes in a 2-mile.
That's
Okay.
the 5-minute mile,
That's similar to, yeah.
right?
Okay, but, so when you're trying to compete against not only your teammates, but other individuals like Jim Howard, he is my hero because when I was a freshman, he was a senior.
In high school?
In senior, yeah. Well, actually, my sophomore year, yeah, so he's
3 years.
2 years ahead of me. Yeah, so he was a senior, and
Same high school?
no, he went to Elk Grove High School,
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
And he also went to a competitive junior college.
Then is that where you met Jim at the junior college?
Actually knew of him, from high school, because Jim has always been one of the elite runners in high school, but he continued through his college and then after.
So when did you first meet him?
First time I actually got to run with Jim was at Sac State.
At Sac State.
Yeah, when he was part of the team.
And you're part of the team too,
Yes.
then, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. But you also ran in junior college?
Yes.
And then you went to Sac State?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran for American River Junior College.
Okay. Are you in the record books there too?
No. Unfortunately, my senior year of high school, I was playing, tackle football with some friends, and unfortunately, one of my good friends was the center for our football team, and I was trying to dodge him, trying to run by him, and he tackled me, and my calf blew up. And it took me at least a solid year for me to start running the times I ran.
That's your first
earlier.
football injury, right?
That was my first football injury. Yes. And it was at least another 10 years before the swelling went all the way down. Because there was a lot of scar tissue and.
Okay. It was a vicious hit.
Oh, it was huge.
And you were fast back then
I was
too.
fast. I just couldn't run by him.
Okay.
I think I carried him for probably 10 yards. 300 pounds.
Okay. All right. So when did you first meet Tony?
Oh, in
Postons, it would
Yes.
have to be. Yeah.
Yeah,
running
when
at
we're-
Postons.
riding or running or.
Riding or running, probably Sunday. I probably saw you when I was going to do a ride and tie with,
Jeff?
not with Jeff. This is even before Jeff. Before I knew you guys. Who I can only think of Novolage because Novolage is where Poston got Novolage from West Cotton,
Yeah.
and I was going to do the ride and tie with West Cotton's son.
Oh, yes.
So we were out practicing, and I remember seeing you guys out running by us usually.
Dave fast too? Was he fast?
With the guy.
Dave Post. Oh, you're talking about
I'm talking about West Cotton's son, who is
fast.
no, he was okay, but he wasn't
Okay.
as fast as these guys. And of course, I never did run it with him. He bailed or something happened, and I started running at Poston's Sunday morning, and that's where we met.
Oh, yeah. We would have some
Yeah.
really great runs.
So-
We'd run from Dave Poston's house off of Lamina Lane, at Folsom Lake, and run all the way to Auburn. And Jim and I would try to beat the horses to the bottom of the hill as you climb into Auburn. You know,
Cardiac.
yes.
So you remember that?
They were doing that. They were way out ahead of me.
You're on a horse or you're running?
Well, I never rode and tie. I didn't ride and tie with them.
Oh, you didn't?
I would just run with them sometimes on Sunday morning. That was probably after I met me and Jeff started doing ride and ties. But so I probably wasn't there when they were doing that, and I would never have saw it because I'd be back at the house still, trying to get down the driveway.
Okay. So this is like early 80s?
In 1982 was when I did my first ride and tie, and so
Tell us about how you got started in ride and tie,
well,
because that's a good story too.
I started crewing for Jim Howard and pacing Jim when he was running ultras in Western states. And
You had not done an ultra at that point?
no,
Okay.
no. In fact, I hadn't even done my first marathon at
Okay.
that point.
Okay.
You know, so I guess this goes back to 81.
81.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
A few years ago.
yeah, gosh, forever. Anyway, and that's how I met the Postons. I would just tag along with Jim, and we'd go running with them. And while they were practicing riding and tying, I would run, you know, alongside of them. And that's probably where I actually started getting in really great shape, because now you're running against horses that are trotting down the trail at 6-minute pace, you know. And you know, even though I'd already run my 2:26 marathon and that kind of stuff, and
So that had to be fun.
right,
At
it
that
was,
time.
it was, you know. And Jim and I would go and run there on the weekend, and then we'd work out together with our running club, you know. And then I'm trying to put this in perspective.
Well, you had to learn how to ride a horse.
Yes, you know. So so anyway, the first ride and tie race I saw was in Dog Valley, up near Boomtown, and Jim and Dave were riding Novolage.
So they're the partners.
They're the partners. This is, I guess it was the 9th anniversary of Levi,
I don't even
1981.
remember. I
Yeah.
didn't even know ride and tie existed at that time.
Yeah, so I think the 9th anniversary of
So it was early in
Levi's,
the 80s then.
81, yeah. I guess that would be early. So anyway, and I'd never gone camping before, you know. So
City boy.
I was, you know, and even though my parents, you know, would always take us water skiing or something like that, but I'd never gone camping, at least for anything, you know, longer than, you know, one night. And so, and to prepare for a riding tie race, especially for the high caliber national event that it is, the Postons would prepare everything in camp, to go up there the week prior so that they could preview the course with the horse and
Smart.
and strategize how they were going to break the course down, and try and you know where Jim would be the most efficient, where who was, you know, going to ride the horse in the difficult sections, you know, how long you would leave one another as you ride into the vet check, you know.
So they use strategy.
They use strategy. And so anyway, so when we went up to the campsite, you know, I was running with Jim as we're previewing the course, and then the night before the race, the helicopter arrives, and everyone's setting up, and you know, putting out the trophy and all the gear that Levi was giving away. You know, the next morning, actually even in the evening, you can hear the horses start to get nervous, and as the morning and all through the night they'd be whinnying, and so it was hard to sleep, and so as you wake up in the morning, and even though there might be a come a coldness or a slight fog, everyone's kind of milling around and, getting dressed, And then I didn't actually get to see the start of the race because I was asked to hold the horse
Hand
a
tie?
mile down. I do a hand tie a mile down the course. Well, as they started in this field, I could hear them because there were probably about 150 teams.
At that time, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of teams.
And as they came down the road, there was 150 horses racing towards me. And I'm standing and watching them and I'm going, oh my God, this, and
This looks like fun.
yeah, exactly, And so Dave rode up, gave me the horse, and I held it until Jim got there, and Jim jumped on the horse and took off. And all of a sudden, I see this horse running with no rider, and I'd never been on a horse, until this, and I jumped out in front and I stopped it. I was lucky I didn't get run over.
Very lucky.
Yeah, right.
And so I tied it to the tree, and the runner came along and thanked me.
Oh, yeah.
And then, and I had 2 bottles of, one 2-liter bottle of water, and 1 2-liter bottle of defizz Coke for Jim, and I was carrying those 2 bottles everywhere I could, to try and give Jim and Dave, aid. And so I probably ran as much as they did.
So you're running around the course?
I was running around the course.
After them?
Yeah, trying to cut from one section to another since we had
Oh, so you
previewed the
can
course.
meet them at different
At different spots.
That's really being a crew, isn't it? The hard way.
Exactly.
It doesn't crew for us that way.
You haven't asked me.
Now we know. Now we know.
Yes. And so after the race was over and Jim and David won the race, even if they hadn't won the race, it was, I had to try it at least once.
But you didn't know how to ride.
Didn't know how to ride.
So how did Pat Browning get involved in this?
Well, actually, so Jeff Windeshausen,
Tony's partner.
Tony's partner, told me, well, if you want to do the race, I'll do it with you, but this is the condition. You're going to have to come out and you're going to have to ride 3 times a week. And I'd never been on a horse.
Did you know Jeff at this point?
No.
No.
Didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. So Dave let me take his horse Butterscotch, which is a quarter horse, over to Terry Haney's stables, Nicanor stables, and Terry. First thing she taught me was how to clean the horse's hooves and brush them, and I had to clean up the manure, all that stuff. After I got done, using her
Well,
arena
yeah, sure.
and stuff, and and she taught me how to put the saddle on and put the bridle in. She showed me once, and then she wasn't going to waste her time with me.
No.
And, so I had to figure it out on my own after that. But
Okay.
she taught me how to do figure 8s and back up, and did a couple of obstacle courses in the arena. In the meantime,
Figure 8's not going to help you in riding.
no. In the meantime, Dave and Rhonda and Jim and Linda, Dave's wife, they would go, saddle the horses, start going down the trail, and they didn't wait for you. Exactly. And luckily I was on Butterscotch, who was very trail savvy, but she did like to run uphill. So every time she got to the bottom of the hill, I had to hold on to her mane, and she'd run up to the top. She was very fast.
So who was in control?
She was.
Okay.
She was, yeah. Yeah. Even when, and then I started riding Comanche, and Comanche had just turned 5 years old. 5 years old is the first year that
Well,
you
you
can
rode
ride.
Comanche.
I rode Comanche,
Yeah.
and I've heard stories of him when he was younger, which Chris
Oh,
has some
he was
good
great.
ones.
Yeah, he bucked Jeff off on the street and broke his arm. And anyway, so I would go, I guess on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'd go up to Jeff's house and saddle Comanche and take him out on the trail myself. And I wouldn't ride him far, probably only about 10 miles. But it was pretty good.
So where did Pat Browning come in?
When we, I have to probably tell you about the first time my first 25-mile endurance ride first. I'm building up to it.
Okay.
Okay.
This is.
So
Oh, so you haven't had lessons from
yeah,
Pat yet?
no,
I thought Pat taught you everything you knew.
no,
Oh, you already knew ahead of time.
no. I didn't know anything. No, I still don't know anything.
But Pat was helpful, though.
He was extremely helpful
Okay.
in my evolution. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So
Yeah.
tell us. Tell us.
So
the story.
anyway, I was doing the Georgetown 25, and this is the week before Big Creek, and a month before the '82 championship. And so I started the ride on Comanche, and I was a passenger. I had no control, you know. And Comanche was, being a young horse, competitive.
How'd you stay on?
I was lucky.
You were lucky.
You know, I didn't fall off.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And this is bad on my part, but when Comanche would see a horse and he'd want to go past him, and it didn't matter if the trail was narrow or not, he would find a way to get past him, you know, and I'd be apologizing, and so
The other.
yeah,
As you're running people off the
yeah, exactly.
trail, yeah.
You know, and
Sorry.
you know, and I was afraid to ride downhill. I'm riding on the flats or riding uphill, you know, I could do that. I could, you know, but I was terrified of riding downhill.
Fast.
Yeah. So as he was starting to pass these people, and I realized, oh shoot, I'm coming up on a long downhill. I better get off. So I got off and I ran with them, and so all these people passed me again, and then I was, once I got to the bottom, I was fighting with him to try and get on him, and to get on Comanche, who's trying to spin and, you know, trying to push you all over the place. The best thing to do is to turn him the opposite direction, and then as he's spinning, as long as you got your foot in the stirrup,
If you're lucky.
yeah, hopefully
He'll spin you into the saddle.
exactly,
Yeah.
you know, and then you know, and anyway, I got to the last veterinarian check, and the vet said, "Oh, you lost a shoe." And Comanche was sound, and I told him that I would, you know, I'd take him in real easy and stuff, and fortunately the ground was soft, and so I ran with him, you know, going to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we got within a half mile, he started hearing the other horses at camp, and he started going a little faster. And, you know, I can keep up with this, you know, and stuff. And so we started running, and we got closer, and he started going faster. When we got within 200 yards, I couldn't keep up with it anymore. I had to let go. He comes tearing through the finish line. Everyone at the finish line just had scattered like crazy, and I come running in afterwards. They didn't know what happened, you know, because all they saw was this horse coming in wide open, no person on it. You know, it was quite an experience. We still laugh about that. You know.
Who was your partner?
It was Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah.
So what did you come in?
Okay.
What place did you come in?
I'm not really sure.
Not sure.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing. Yeah. You know, so anyway, so the following week we went to Big Creek down in Santa Cruz, and that was where they were also having a 50-mile endurance ride at the same time.
Probably,
So
yeah.
there were a lot of people camped out there. Anyway, so they started the riding time after the 50 and the 75 or 70, whatever. And things were actually going along pretty well. Jim and Dave were quite a ways ahead, you know, because they're experienced, and this is my first riding tie. John Root and his partner were, you know, competing for, you know, second place, and a few other really good teams. Well, as you come into the last vet check, you start on a downhill which skirts the bluff, you know, and and all I could think of is that, oh man, Comanche's going to start going faster and faster, and I won't be able to stop them as we go downhill. And so, but I didn't get off, and so as we're going along, and Pat Browning just happened to be in front of me,
Oh,
And
so you didn't know Pat at that
I didn't know
point?
Pat
Okay,
that much
okay.
and stuff, and he immediately recognized that I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, and so he put his horse in front of Comanche, and Comanche stopped before he could get ahead of steam going, and we just followed Pat into the vet check,
Okay.
you know, and you know, so that was my first meeting with Pat, and I
Okay.
thank him for that, you know, and then you know, and Pat used to put on the 50 miler, Nugget 50.
Nugget.
Yeah, over by Nevada City,
Okay.
and it was an endurance ride. He did a ride and tie there, and then also he started a 50-mile run. You know, and so when unfortunately in '83, Comanche did run away with me on the downhill, and I fell off, and I was probably out for 5 minutes. Ended up in the hospital. Yeah, and so everyone was worried.
Well, yeah.
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 And so I made up my mind that I'd better really learn how to ride.
Smart.
At that point. And so a lot of practice, a lot of endurance rides. You know, that's really where I felt most comfortable is,
Mhm.
you know, from the endurance rides.
Okay.
And so, and because I was recovering from that injury and the concussion, I teamed up with Pat, and Pat's horses had brakes. You know, they would collect themselves, and
Well, Pat knew what he was doing.
oh, he knew what he was doing, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I felt very safe and sure on, you know, riding Pat's horses.
So you left Jeff so that Tony could.
Yes.
So did you then follow Chris with Jeff?
I don't think so, because I didn't ride.
Probably not, because I teamed up with Dave Andreotti in '87. And
Yeah, see, I didn't start doing riding ties probably in the 90s.
Oh, that
Yeah.
much after.
Just before, let's see, 5 years before Jeff had his first kid. That's how. That's the only way. And if I could remember his age, I could figure it out. Because once he had the kid, we quit. He couldn't.
Didn't have time.
Didn't have time.
And stuff.
But
Yeah.
we did it together for 5 years, so it had to be in the 90s, because that's when I was running and stuff.
So you and Jeff only about 5 years?
Only 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you know, and see, Jim and I won in '92. Won the championship in '92. So, that whole season, probably riding tie had become such a big sport that we were racing every 3 weeks. So when you race yourself into shape, you could pick a race to do it.
You could do that.
And,
So you were doing running races, you mean?
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and plus training, you know, during the week.
Okay.
You know, so the long hard runs would be during the riding ties.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so I was teaming up with Pat that whole season, and I told him, you know, and he was going to let Jim and I use his horse Willie for the championship, which was in Santa Cruz. And you know, but I promised Pat that if, you know, that I would run the following year with him,
Okay.
you know, for the championship.
Can you share your secrets with you and Jim as a team, ride and tie team? Can you share that with the public?
Well, riding tie is a team sport that there's a lot of strategy involved, and if something goes wrong, you can guarantee it will. Since Jim and I were, you know, Jim was always faster than me, and if I could run close to his ability or see him, you know, around the next corner, I was excited, you know. And that was my goal, to always try and, you know, get as close to Jim as I could before he saw me and then ran away.
While you're on the horse?
No, while he's on ground.
While he's
and
on
stuff.
the ground?
You know, so when Jim and
Well,
I,
if he's on the ground, then you're on the
well,
horse.
when we were competing against each other.
Oh, but,
you know,
but I mean, it's a
but,
team.
you know, and so when two runners are close to the same ability, you know, within 20 seconds of each other. That's, it's 20-second difference, in a 10K or a marathon, is huge. But in a riding tie, it's not that much difference because the horse makes up a lot of difference. And your ability to get on and off the horse, untie it, and ride in difficult areas. The more technical the trail, the more skillful the rider has to be. So Jim and I had this strategy that, for example, when we won in Santa Cruz, we tried to dissect the course, and Jim rode the first 2 miles, and I ran the first 2 miles. Most people are tying their horses within the first half mile.
Yeah.
Well, Jim and I.
Why did you spread that out to? Because that's a long tie, 2 miles.
Because we were running against Tom Johnson and Mark Rickman, who were a phenomenal team, Gary Polhill and John Root, who were equally as good, and both teams had their horses were ready to run.
But explain the why. Why?
So the goal was for us to get Jim out in front, so they would be chasing us.
Jim's on the horse.
Jim's on the horse.
Okay.
And we wanted to surprise them because they were making their first tie short, and
Yes.
so we wanted to play with their mind a little bit.
And Jim was the faster runner.
Jim was the faster runner.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he'd be in the lead.
He would be in the lead.
He'd have a nice head start.
Have a nice head start.
And then the horse could rest.
The horse could rest. And and so when I got on Willie and I started down the trail, it's just the three of us out in front. All three of us had already put ourselves ahead of the entire pack.
So you were able to run.
Yes.
2 miles
And
faster than the other teams?
Most of the other teams, yeah.
Well, you said you were in front.
Yes. And
You're in front of Johnson and.
No. Those two teams were ahead of me.
They were.
But everyone else was behind.
Okay. But Jim was. He should.
He was in front. So when I got on Willie, I passed both of them, and I caught Jim. So we're the lead team, and we're pretty much setting the pace. And then as you work your way over to the coast, all the teams started bunching up, and then their horses would always recover before my horse Willie. But I knew my horse had more speed. Mm-hmm. At least he showed it on. He had a great race that day. He was.
It's a good horse.
He was on.
Willie's a good horse. Yeah.
He was on, and even though they would leave 30 seconds ahead of me, I would catch him within the first half mile, and I would catch Jim, and then we'd all three of us be riding, tying, passing each other.
But other than the 2 mile tie, what other strategy?
Well, we would use our watches, and once we started doing riding ties, Jim, I'd give the horse to Jim, and I'd tell him to ride for 2 minutes, and he'd ride for 2 minutes, look for a safe tie, and then take off. If it was, and then we would switch where I would go in front. I did a majority of the running into the vet check until the last vet check. And the goal was for us to save Jim for the second half. And or actually save Jim for the middle of the course, and I would, so I did all the riding, leaving the vet check, catching Jim, and then going into the last vet check, I rode the horse.
Well, if you took the horse into the vet check, you're supposed to switch.
That rule didn't exist
then.
But Jim and I were always, caught each other, before the vet check, and so we didn't have a problem with that. When Jim would team up with a runner, like Dave Poston had a hard time catching him. Jeff Witness-Housen had a hard time catching us. When we did the Forest Hill Riding Tie in 1985, it was 105 degrees. And after the first vet check, Jim did the race with Jim Larimer, and Jim Larimer didn't catch him until just maybe a mile before the finish line. And both Jim and I ran the whole middle 10 miles without ever seeing the horse. And
I
so,
remember that year. That was brutal. That
Yeah.
was-
you know, so, and that's why they added the rule, because all of a sudden it became an endurance ride and an endurance run, not a riding time. And, you know,
Okay.
so,
Well, we're just about the end of the show
already? Oh my gosh.
already, but just to know that you have an outstanding 50-mile trail run time. Your best time is
5:51.
5:51, running 50 miles, and you have 2 buckles under.
Four. Oh wait,
under
two, two
under
Western State buckles.
two Western States
Yeah.
buckles under
Yeah.
24 hours. for
Both
that.
both races were the week following the Riding Tide Championship.
And you went all out in Ride Tide Championship. So it was like a training
Warm up,
run.
just a warm up.
for
A cool down.
Yeah.
cool down for Western States. So what you're telling us is that really the Ride and Tie,
That was the sport I loved.
the sport that you love.
Yeah. And it made me happy.
Like Tony. That's why
Be
you're.
happy.
That's what it was. It was the Ride and Tie that. But for you, it was really more endurance, wasn't it?
I liked endurance riding the
Better
best.
than
yeah,
riding-
than ride and tie.
I'm surprised.
I'm more of a loner. I like being out on my own.
Well, you are when you run. So what's the difference?
It's just more my makeup. I enjoy being out by myself with a horse and no one else around.
Bothering you, right?
No one bothering me.
Communicating.
Flying down the trail, best feeling you can have.
So
It's
Tony,
just-
when you're out there by yourself, are you communicating with nature?
I'm singing.
Tony's singing. So more insight into happy Tony. He sings. So and sometimes he'll start like today singing really early, and it just to needle me. Anyway, so Chris, we're glad that you joined us for today's show, and there were so many more things we didn't get into because Chris has a lot of stories. Tony knows a lot of the stories, and
Well, next time I'll come as my twin brother.
who would know? Would anyone know?
No.
He's faster though. He always let us know he was
I am.
faster than his twin brother.
In college, I always lapped him.
You did.
I did.
There's a element of sadistic quality among some runners. Anyway, we're glad that you joined us on our show and hopefully provided some insight into running and also the ride and tie, because that's a great sport. Well, thank you for watching, those of you that are watching, and if you don't, tell your friends.